Hi, my name is Anthony Scillia, and I am the principal partner along with George Merrill and Paul Landino of MSR LLC, which is Merrill-Scillia Research LLC. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the evolution of Mr. Merrill's designs and the fact that he turned his designs over to myself and how I evolved the designs into what you see today. Probably about 30 years ago, Mr. Merrill started modifying acoustic research turntables. He approximately modified 10,000 units, and with the modification of those units, he's devised his design criteria for the heirloom turntable, which he produced for approximately 20 years. He manufactured and sold approximately 1,000 units before he kind of retired the design. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was actually modifying acoustic research turntables myself, and we kind of found each other. I was interested in doing this type of engineering work, and he had done that previously in the past, and we actually got together and we formed a friendship. And what happened was we eventually formed the company, MSR LLC. He passed his design ideas on to myself, and he had given me the opportunity to kind of run with the ball, so to speak, to take his designs and evolve them into the current form which you see here today, which is our MS-21 turntable. Currently in industry, we are one of the only manufacturers who is manufacturing a true spring suspended turntable. We chose the suspended turntable because inherently it's a fantastic design, but the suspended turntable also has a few very serious shortcomings which we chose to address and make the table completely user-friendly. One of which was the problem with the springs. What we did was we came up with the concept called the machine spring. Problem number one, when you adjust the spring under weight, the spring experiences what's known as coil bind. And that is as you adjust the suspension up, the top 3 or 4 coils of the spring bind. So our machine spring under full compression experiences 15 thousandths min gap between the coils. So in other words, you cannot fully compress this spring ever, no matter how much weight you put underneath the spring. The spring will break before it is fully compressed. Number two, historically, it has been very difficult to adjust the suspension and level it out because the ends of the spring are not flat. With our spring, the ends of the springs are machined flat, so there's no rotating the spring to find the sweet spot. Number three, the suspended table experiences what's called side deflection. What you get with our table is a nice, stable, true up and down movement with the suspension because we use what is called dual start coil geometry. Our spring utilizes 2 coils which oppose each other at 180 degrees. And what that accomplishes is that the action of the 2 coils fight each other, and they work to keep the spring stabilized under load and under any kind of footfall. Another problem with a coil wound spring is that it will never put out the same compression ratio twice. With the machine spring, no matter how many times you compress it, the compression ratio is always the same. So the suspension is a very stable suspension. The last remaining problem that Mr. Merrill first solved was the fact that there is very unequal loads on the suspension. Your bladder assembly versus the mounting area of the tone arm. Turntable owners that own the suspended turntable think that they can balance out the suspension by adjusting the height adjustment nuts, and that is not true. The nuts for adjusting the suspension are used to adjust the height only and not the levelness of the suspension. With the tuning weight, once we have the platter assembly in place and the tone arm mounted, then what we do is we find the levelness of the suspension by adjusting the tuning weight to offset the weight of the tone arm. And by adjusting the tuning weight and then locking it down once we have reached that levelness across the entire spectrum of the sub-chassis, we have a level table. So inherently, all the problems associated with suspended tables have been solved by our design. So your spring suspended turntable has just been made very easy to set up and a very desirable piece of equipment to own now. At MSR LLC, we want you to know that customer satisfaction is our first priority, as well as the quality of components that we produce. And while our warranty states that we cover all product for 5 years, our unwritten policy is that we will take care of your product for as long as you own the table to make sure that your audio listening experience is a most enjoyable one.